the easiest, most digestible way to start thinking about college planning.
Sometimes not overshare because you want your children to also work hard at saving.
3 different buckets. The first is past. What have you saved in the past? Different ways to build that. I think for many people, it's not too reasonable to fund them one time with a large amount of money. I paid back my own loans. I had skin in the game. It wasn't an option to not work and not find employment.
Believe that it's necessary. You're calling it skin in the game. It's more of a learning lesson. Yes. If you've never gone in to take out a loan at a bank, you don't even understand what's needed. But knowing that I will help you when it's time for the future loan process.
Yes.
Welcome to Express Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Martinez.
And I'm Lauren Genuardi, and we're coming to you to discuss questions that have come in from clients or from others, and things and topics that are on your mind.
What we try to do is some topics can be quite difficult to digest. So we'll either tell a little bit of how we've personally gone through these questions or life experiences that we've been able to learn from the families that we work with. So today's question is how to think about college planning. This is quite a difficult question.
Yes.
And there are different vehicles that can be used to save for your children. And it obviously depends on how old your children are when you're starting this process. So besides UTMA accounts that you might start younger in life, 529 plans that can have a tax deferral benefit, as well as gifting trusts that can be drafted for your children. There are many options, but I think that we break it down in segments, yes, to be able to know, what do I do now?
Correct. And I think in addressing this topic, we need to call out the elephant in the room, which is that college is wildly expensive. It is probably one of the scariest things, I would say, for a lot of clients, even more so than retirement. I think more people are worried about how they're going to pay for college.
Because that comes first.
Exactly, because college comes first, right? There's different seasons of life, and that's an expensive season. And so I think the easiest, most digestible way to start thinking about college planning, I heard this recently and I love it. 3 different buckets. The first is past. So what have you done to get ready? And that goes back to what Vanessa was talking about. Did you open UTMAs? Did you open 529s? Did you do gift trusts? So that's the first bucket, past. What have you saved in the past? Different ways to build that. I think for many people, it's not too reasonable to fund them one time with a large amount of money. So I love incremental setups, monthly, quarterly, yearly, work at it slowly and methodically. I think that is a palatable way for a lot of people to do it and to not get scared by the process. Then you enter in present. And present doesn't mean now. Present means when your kid is in college. For most people, I would say they haven't been able to fully fund college in the years leading up to it. So there's going to be a draw from your present income, meaning just know in advance so that you're prepared and you're not caught off guard, that there's going to be a pull from your salary at that moment when your kids are in school. And it's probably going to be hard because especially if you have multiple children or you have multiple children close in age, you're just going to get hit back to back to back. And it's not to scare you, but if we go in and kind of already know that this is coming, then we're not so caught off guard. And then the last bucket is future money, meaning, okay, we've saved in the past. This is what we can afford to give from present salary at that moment that these children are going to college. What do we do kind of future moving forward? And that's where I think people consider loans. And it's loans that a student might take out in their own name. It's loans that the parents might take out. And that really is that future bucket when it comes to paying for college.
Thinking through all of those options, and like you said, the taking on that burden, and it could be as parent, and it also could be as a grandparent, but knowing that it is a decision,
Yes.
not an obligation.
Correct.
I think that is something that's very important to remember, that you have the option to pay all of it,
Yes.
some of it, or none of it.
Correct.
Right? So it's really, what is your situation? And that doesn't necessarily mean, well, you have more than enough. Why wouldn't you pay all of it?
Correct.
That's not necessarily your decision to follow. Because you have it, you should. Yes, we had quite a few clients that think, which I agree with this sentiment, if you do have it, but you also want the child to learn and understand, being an adult in this world, that there might be cases where you do have to take out a loan. This is where the some of it bucket is where the majority of people land. And the how much of that sum is where we kind of lean in on saying, okay, I can do X amount. And if I want to be equal to all of my children, then it's assigning, okay, I want to give this much to each of them.
Yes.
How much do you set out? But knowing that I will help you when it's time for the future loan process.
Yes.
And do what's tax efficient for the family.
Correct. And I've also, with clients, seen people approach it different ways too. I've had some, in this case, it was grandparents who've said, hey, I'm great. I want to make it equal. But equal always isn't equal in terms of dollars.
Yeah.
It comes down to different things. Sometimes you might have a child who gets into an Ivy League school and fully intends to go to that Ivy League school. Great. You might have someone else who says, I want to be in this profession, and the school that's 35 minutes away from my house is fantastic, and I want to go there. And so your dollar amounts for college are very different. And some parents will try, or grandparents will try to equalize and say, well, if I give you $100,000, I have to give you $100,000, and you in the third and the fourth, and so on. And then others will say, I'm going to give equal percentages. I've seen that too, where they say to the parents, I will contribute 50% towards the cost of tuition only. And so then the parent knows, okay, grandparents are going to step in and do 50%. I've also had some grandparents come back, and this is funny. College has changed a lot since we went to college. And they've come back and they've said, I went on the tour. Love the school, fully in support of the school, but I am not going to pay for that $20,000 room and board. I'm not paying for them to live in a place with a high-end luxury apartment. I'm not paying for them to have a gym. I'm not paying for them to have a pool in the building. And so sometimes, those situations come up too. And I think it's just really assessing what like you said, what works for the family, what makes sense, and how do you try to keep it equal, and what does equal mean? Is it actual equal dollars for each person, or is it equal percentages, or saying I'm going to cover tuition but not room and board, or however it looks? It looks different.
Hence why we have this podcast. Express yourself.
Yes.
Because we truly believe in communication. The more that you can share, if you are a grandparent, with the parent, the easier the transition will be.
Yes.
And in some cases, I get the fact that sometimes not overshare, because you want your children to also work hard at saving for the grandkids, which is fine, but being able to step in at the moment of when it is time to go to college, right? So let's talk about this and let's map this out to help kind of that stress piece that comes into play.
Yes.
For everyone.
That's where we hope that there's more conversation and disclosure. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but when it does happen, I think it's really great because it gets everyone on the same page. Then the expectations are set so that when the parent is looking and saying, here are my past, present, and future buckets, they know what's coming and it's not really a surprise.
Are you ready, Lauren?
So a couple years ago, was doing some financial planning. I was just, poking around in the little template that we had, and I ran numbers on my boys. And My boys are 18 months apart, so they're going to go to college. They're 2 school years apart, though. So I'm going to get hit back to back. I'm not going to have a break. And so I plugged in their 529 plans. So I opted to do the 529 plans because I really like a slow, methodical, set it and forget it approach to investing for them. So I save a certain amount of money every month, comes out on the same day. It's just kind of baked into the whole cane, right? And so I had their 529s running since they were born. And I have their allocation accordingly, what I think will grow long term. And so I put in those numbers and I put in my assumptions of, hey, these are going to be my continued contributions. And then I knew as a planner, I knew how this was going to look, right? I knew that there was no way I had saved enough to really cover college fully. So I ran the numbers. It's like, okay, there's a shortfall. I fully expect that. 99.9% of the time when we run projections for people, there's shortfalls because it is such a huge, huge expense. Hence, the past, present, and future buckets, right? How we get this accomplished. And I ran the plan, and I remember I was going into another meeting, so I didn't really say anything. And so I just saved my plan off, and I emailed it to my husband. And I didn't give him any warning that it was coming, more that I was doing it. And then Sal came up, and he was flustered, and he was sweating, and he was like, oh my gosh, what did you do? Why are you showing this to me? And I was like, it's fine. It's fine. I know that these 3 different buckets are here, and we'll get through it. But it can be a shock when you look at it. So I always say, let's start sooner rather than later. If you are starting on the later end, that's fine. As long as you start somewhere and you start to think about it, don't bury your head in the sand and pretend like it's not going to be an issue. So going back to my voice, so I do have the 529s for them. The hope is that that grows and covers a good portion of college. I do know that there will be, that draw from present earnings at that moment that they're in school. I'm fully accept that and know it's coming. And then in terms of future, I've already told both of mine. I said, hey, this is how I went to school. My parents did not save. I think it really wasn't the thought process at that time that we were going to college. So they didn't save. I went to college. They paid from, present income. They also, did some of the things you're not supposed to do with equity loans and things like that to help me get through college. And then I took out loans in my own name. And I paid back my own loans. I had skin in the game. It wasn't an option to not work and not find employment. And then I paid my parents back for the money that they had given me to go to school. And I told my boys, hey, this is what you're going to do. Dad and I are going to help you as much as we possibly can. But at the end of the day, you're going to take out loans. You're going to have skin in the game. This isn't completely on me. And it's not that I'm trying to be mean. It's not that I'm trying to deny them anything. But really, I think it helps them have skin in it. They understand the financial commitment that we've made to get them to that point. They know our full support is behind them. But then they also know, hey, I have to be responsible. And it's a good way to teach them good financial stewardship. How do I make good decisions with my money? How do I get that job and make sure that I'm not sitting on someone's couch? We have to kind of get those things rolling. So I've been upfront and told them that.
No, I think that's a great idea. And I had mentioned it earlier that quite a few of our clients believe that it's necessary. You're calling it skin in the game. It's more of a learning lesson. Yes. If you've never gone in to take out a loan at a bank, you don't even understand what's needed. I'm sure if you've all watched the different reels and all the social media where the child is calling the parent, Ma, what's my social security?
Yes.
Because it's been so much hand-holding along the way.
Absolutely.
So the idea here isn't to make them struggle. It's truly to help them find their own path.
Exactly.
And it doesn't have to be how our parents used to tell us, I walked uphill both ways, barefoot. That's not the case. No, I think it's more, let me help you learn.
Yes.
And to do that means I let go a little.
Exactly. Because that's not going to be their first loan. That's not going to be the first thing. If they understand this and how you are responsible for paying this and you have to be watching it, they'll understand when they go to buy a home. They're going to understand a mortgage. They're going to understand, hey, this is just how life works as an adult. And it is. It's a great learning experience.
Agreed. As you come up with more questions, maybe you'd like us to dig a little deeper into the college planning, each individual plan that exists, send us those questions and we'll get you answers.
Thank you.